Have you ever felt stuck, like life is moving forward for everyone but you? Maybe you're at a crossroads, unsure of which direction to take, or overwhelmed by the pressure to figure it all out. Today on Lenses of Love, we're discovering how to trust God to guide us through life's twists and turns. If you're searching for clarity and purpose, you won't want to miss this episode. Have you ever been lost? I mean really lost, like I have no idea where I am or how I got here kind of lost. Maybe it was driving in an unfamiliar neighborhood, your GPS recalculating for what felt like the 20th time. Or maybe it was walking through a dense forest on a hike, every tree starting to look the same. And suddenly that confident trail you thought you were on didn't seem so clear anymore. That sinking feeling sets in. Panic, frustration, a little bit of fear. Now imagine being lost not physically, but emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. Instead of streets or trees, it's your life that feels disoriented. You look around at others, they seem to have it all figured out. The friend who just landed their dream job, the couple who seems to have the perfect relationship, the influencer who's out there living their best life. And then there's you, wondering if you even have a map, let alone a destination. We've all been there, lost, confused, and maybe even stuck. It's a universal experience, that feeling of standing still while the rest of the world seems to move forward. And the question that gnaws at your heart is, how do I find my path? This question isn't just for one season of life, it's a recurring one. You might have asked it in high school, trying to figure out who you are and where you fit in. You might have wrestled with it in college, picking a major or deciding on a career. And even as adults, it doesn't stop. Decisions about relationships, careers, faith, and even identity make us feel like we're wandering, searching for some kind of direction. Here's the thing about paths. They don't always look the way we think they will. Sometimes they're winding and unpredictable. Sometimes they're uphill and we barely feel like we're making any progress. Sometimes they seem to disappear altogether, leaving us wondering if we've taken a wrong turn. And sometimes there's a fork in the road, and we're left standing there paralyzed, asking, which way do I go? In today's world, the pressure to find your path feels heavier than ever. We live in an age of endless options. Our socials are filled with highlight reels of people crushing goals, achieving success, and living lives that look picture perfect. We're bombarded with messages like find your passion, hustle harder, live your truth. And while some of these messages are well-meaning, they can also leave us feeling like we're falling behind or failing, like we haven't figured it all out yet. Here's the thing. Life isn't a straight road with clear signs pointing the way. I wish it was. It's more like an adventure through a dense forest. Beautiful, yes, but also confusing, messy, and downright frustrating sometimes. And if we're trying to navigate it all on our own, we're bound to feel lost. But here's the good news. You don't have to figure it out alone. There's a guide, a compass, a light that can cut through the confusion and help you find your way. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 and 6 comes in. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him and he will make your paths straight. Listen, this verse isn't just an inspirational quote for your Instagram bio. It's a promise. It's a roadmap for those moments when you feel stuck, unsure, or overwhelmed. It's an invitation to let go of the pressure to have it all figured out and lean into something bigger, deeper, and better. Today, we're going to unpack this verse together. We're going to explore what it looks like to trust in God when life feels uncertain, to let go of our need for control, and to submit to a plan that's greater than our own. We're going to talk about the traps we fall into, like trying to figure everything out on our own or comparing our paths to everyone else's. And most importantly, we're going to discover how to align ourselves with God's guidance so that we can walk in purpose and peace. So, if you've been feeling lost, this is for you. If you've been searching for clarity, this is for you. If you've ever wondered, why does everyone else seem to know where they're going and I'm just stuck here? This is for you. When we hear trust in the Lord with all your heart, it sounds beautiful, doesn't it? But let's be honest, trusting completely is hard. It's one thing to trust when life is going smoothly, but what about when things aren't? What about when your plans fall apart or when the road ahead seems uncertain? Trust becomes a whole different story when you're in the middle of a mess. The challenge is that trusting God often requires us to let go of our desire for control. And control feels safe, doesn't it? We like to think that if we can plan enough, prepare enough, or work enough, we can make things turn out exactly how we want. But here's the truth. Control is an illusion. No matter how much we try to manage every detail of our lives, there are always things beyond our power. Trusting God means releasing our grip on the steering wheel of our lives and letting Him take over. That doesn't mean we stop making plans or working hard. It means we do so with an open hand, knowing that God's plan is better than anything we could ever come up with. It means admitting that we don't have all the answers, but choosing to believe that God does. Imagine boarding an airplane. You're taking your seat, buckling your seatbelt, and settling in for the flight. And as the plane begins to taxi down the runway, you aren't rushing to the cockpit to check on the pilot, are you? You're not asking whether they've memorized the flight plan or whether they know how to navigate turbulence. No. You trust that the pilot has been trained, knows the route, and is capable of getting you to your destination safely. Even when you hit turbulence, you stay seated, trusting that the pilot is in control. That's what trusting God looks like. He is the ultimate pilot. He knows your life's flight path, the smooth skies, the turbulence, the delays, and even the detours. While we're sitting in the cabin experiencing moments of discomfort or uncertainty, He's navigating with precision and purpose. Trusting Him means letting Him guide us through the turbulence instead of trying to take the controls ourselves. The problem is, we're often tempted to jump into the cockpit. We think, if I could just handle this part myself, things would go smoother. But the truth is, we're not equipped to fly the plane. God sees the whole picture. He sees the destinations we can't even imagine yet. Our job is to sit in trust, even when we don't fully understand where He's taking us. Here's the kicker. Trusting God often feels risky because it's vulnerable. It means admitting we're not in control, and that's scary. But it's also freeing. When we lean on God instead of our own understanding, we're no longer carrying the weight of figuring everything out on our own. We're placing that weight in the hands of the one who is strong enough to carry it. And let's be real, letting go of control isn't just about surrendering the big decisions. It's about trusting God in the small everyday moments too. It's about saying, God, I trust you to guide me in this conversation with my friend, or I trust you to help me navigate this tough day at work. Trusting God isn't just a grand gesture, it's a daily practice. So how do we grow in trust? I'll tell you right after this short break.
Hello, good to see you today here at the Lenses of Love set. I love to watch Sam's message and learn from him how to see God and His Word through the lenses of love. Perhaps you would like to learn more about other questions of life. For example, Why am I here? Is there a God? Why is there so much evil and suffering? And why are there so many different religions? And which one is true? Is the Bible fact or fiction? Who is Jesus of Nazareth? Was he truly God as Christians say he is? Why did Jesus come to earth to die? And how does his death offer us salvation? What happens when I die? Is there really a heaven or a hell? These questions and others we answer on our online Bible study platform at hopestudy.ca. There, you will find answers to these and other crucial life questions. We would love to hear from you. Please email us at hopestudy@hopetv.ca. And remember, there is hope and answers to life's biggest questions in the Word of God.
So how do we grow in trust? Start small. Take one area of your life where you're holding on tightly and give it to God. Maybe it's a decision you're agonizing over, or a situation you can't seem to fix. Pray about it. Be honest with God about your fears and release it to Him. Over time, as you see how faithful He is, trust becomes a little easier. It's also important to remind ourselves of who God is. Trusting God isn't about blind faith. It's about trusting in His character. He's good. He's faithful. He's loving. And when we take time to remember the ways God has been faithful in the past, it strengthens our confidence in Him for the future. Think about the times when things worked out in ways you couldn't have planned or imagined. That's God's handiwork. Let those memories anchor your trust. When we trust in the Lord with all our hearts, we're not just taking a leap into the unknown. We're stepping into a relationship with a God who loves us, knows us, and has plans for us that are good. Trust isn't easy, but it's worth it. It's the first step to finding your path, acknowledging that while you can't control the journey, you can rest assured that God is navigating it with care. So, the next time you feel the urge to take the controls or fix things on your own, remember the airplane. Trust the pilot. Let him do what only he can do. And as you let go, you might just find that the path forward becomes clearer one step at a time. Lean not on your own understanding. That's a hard one, isn't it? We like to believe we're pretty good at figuring things out. After all, we've got Google, we got ChatGPT, we have life hacks, self-help books, and countless podcasts to help us navigate every decision we face. But if we're honest, even with all the knowledge at our fingertips, life can still feel overwhelming. The truth is, our understanding is limited. No matter how much we learn, there's only so much we can see, so much we can control, so much we can predict. And that's why God calls us to submit to His plan rather than rely solely on our own understanding. Now, submission doesn't mean throwing up your hands and doing nothing. It doesn't mean we stop thinking. It doesn't mean we stop planning or making decisions. What it does mean is acknowledging that God's wisdom far surpasses ours. It's a posture of humility where we say, God, I don't have all the answers, but I trust that you do. But let's be real, submission isn't easy. It goes against our natural desire for control. We like to be the ones calling the shots. We like to be the ones making the plans and deciding the outcomes. Submission requires surrender, and surrender can feel like weakness. But here's the thing. Surrender to God isn't about giving up. It's about giving over. It's about placing your plans, your dreams, your worries, and your struggles into the hands of the one who created you, who loves you, and who has your best interests at heart. Think about the times in life when things didn't go as planned. Maybe it was a relationship that didn't work out, a job you didn't get, or an opportunity that fell through. In that moment, it might have felt like failure or rejection. But looking back, you can see how those closed doors led to something better. That's the beauty of submitting to God's plan. He knows what we can't see yet. He's not just working in the moment, He's working for the long game. Proverbs 3 verse 5 and 6 reminds us to acknowledge Him in all your ways and He will make your paths straight. Acknowledging God means inviting Him into every area of our lives. It's not just about the big decisions like where to go to college, what career to pursue, or who to marry. It's also about the small everyday choices we make. It's saying, God, I want your guidance in how I spend my time today. I want your wisdom in how I respond to this situation. I want your perspective in how I handle this relationship. When we acknowledge God, we're saying, I trust that your way is better than mine. And here's the promise. When we do that, He will make our paths straight. That doesn't mean the path will always be easy or that we'll never face obstacles. It means He'll guide us in the right direction. He'll lead us toward His purpose for our lives. But how do we actually do this? How do we submit to God's plan in a practical way? One way is through prayer. Prayer isn't just about asking God for things. It's about aligning our hearts with His heart. It's about coming to Him with our plans and saying, God, this is what I want, but I want your will more. Show me the way forward. Another way is through Scripture. The Bible is so full of wisdom and guidance for our lives. When we spend time in God's Word, we gain clarity and direction. We start to see our lives through His perspective instead of our own limited understanding. And then there's community. God often speaks to us through the people around us, friends, mentors, family members, or even strangers. When we surround ourselves with people who love God and who want what's best for us, we create space for God to use them to guide us. Finally, submission requires patience. We live in a culture that values instant results, but God's timing is rarely instant. Submission means trusting God's timing to be perfect, even when it doesn't match ours. It means waiting on Him, even when we're tempted to rush ahead. Here's the beautiful thing about submission. It leads to freedom. When we submit to God's plan, we're no longer carrying the burden of trying to figure it all out on our own. We're no longer striving to make everything work perfectly. We're free to live with open hands, knowing that God is guiding us every single step of the way. So the next time you find yourself trying to force the puzzle pieces to fit, take a step back. Remember who's holding the box. Trust that God sees the full picture and let Him guide you. It might not always be easy, but it'll always be worth it. Because when we submit to His plan, we're stepping into the life He created us to live. A life full of purpose, meaning, and peace. When we talk about finding our path in life, one of the hardest things to accept is that the timing isn't always up to us. We're surrounded by messages that tell us to hustle harder, push forward, and make things happen. And while hard work and determination are very important, there's a deeper truth we often overlook. Life unfolds in God's timing, not ours. Trusting God's timing is about surrendering our need for control and believing that He knows the perfect time for everything. I can't help but remember watching my dad tend to his garden when I was younger, and I'll tell you all about it right after this break.
Hello friends, it is great to be here with you on Lenses of Love today. I trust that you've been blessed by this program, and I hope that you're able to share it with your loved ones. Thank you for your support so far. It means the world to us, really. And if you want to help us, if you haven't already partnered with us as an agent of hope, I briefly wanted to share with you how to do so. Above all, we desire your prayers. Please remember those who are involved with Hope Channel Canada and the production of its programs, as well as the different initiatives that we'll be launching throughout the country. I also ask your prayers for the hearts of people all across Canada, that they will be open to learning that in Jesus there is more to life. Anytime you have to spare in order to volunteer with one of our projects will be greatly appreciated. Please feel free to contact us at either agentsofhope@hopetv.ca or visit agentsofhope.ca to have your questions answered and to learn where you can be of service. And finally, your financial support would be greatly appreciated, and any amount makes a huge difference in impacting Canadians all across our nation. Please visit agentsofhope.ca so that you can donate online via debit, credit, Google Pay, or Apple Pay to make a one-time or recurring donation. If you prefer to donate offline, you can e-transfer us at agentsofhope@hopetv.ca or mail a check to Hope Channel Canada at the following address: Hope Channel Canada, 1148 King Street East, Oshawa, Ontario, L1H1H8. Thank you once again for joining us on this exciting journey.
Gardening was my father's thing. He loved being outside, hands in the dirt, planting seeds and caring for his little patch of earth. I'd often tag along, curious about what he was doing. I remember watching him carefully plant each seed, spacing them out just right, covering them with soil and then watering the ground. He'd finish with this content look on his face, as if the work was already done. But here's the thing, I didn't get it. I'd stand there and say, "Dad, how do you know they'll grow? What if nothing happens?" And he'd just smile and say, "You don't rush nature, you trust it. You do your part and you let it do its part." At the time, I didn't think much of it, but looking back now, I see how much that simple lesson applies to life. Gardening requires trust in a process you can't see. When my dad planted those seeds, they were completely out of sight, buried beneath the soil. For weeks, all I saw was dirt, no sprouts, no signs of growth, just plain dirt. If it were me, I would have been tempted to dig them up and check if they were doing anything. But not my dad. He trusted the process. He knew the seeds were working, even when we couldn't see it. That's a picture of how God works in our lives. When we're in a waiting season, it can feel like nothing is happening. We pray, we work, we plan, and yet the results seem delayed. It's frustrating, isn't it? We want to see progress, to know that things are moving forward. But just like those seeds hidden beneath the soil, God's work in us often happens beneath the surface. It's not always visible, but that doesn't mean it's not happening. The Bible is filled with examples of people who had to trust God's timing. Think about Joseph in the Old Testament. He had dreams of greatness as a young man, but instead of stepping into that calling right away, he spent years as a slave and then in prison. From the outside, it looked like his life was going nowhere, but beneath the surface, God was preparing him, teaching him, refining him, and shaping him for the role that he was meant to play. The same is true for us. Trusting God's timing means believing that even in the waiting, God is working. It's about holding on to faith when life feels stagnant and remembering that His plans are better than ours. My dad's garden taught me that. Even when it looked like nothing was happening, those seeds were germinating, taking root, and preparing to sprout. There's another thing about my dad's gardening that stands out to me. He never took shortcuts. He didn't rush the process or try to force the plants to grow faster. He didn't dig up the seeds every day to see if they were sprouting. I mean, that would have ruined the whole process. Instead, he focused on what he could do. He watered the soil, he pulled out the weeds, and he made sure the plants had the right conditions to grow. But the growth itself, that was out of his hands. In the same way, trusting God's timing doesn't mean being passive. It means doing what we can while leaving the outcome to Him. We can pray, we can work hard, we can prepare ourselves for the opportunities ahead, but ultimately the growth, the breakthrough, that's in God's hands. And when the time is right, it will happen. One of the hardest parts about trusting God's timing is comparison. We look at others who seem to be flourishing while we're still waiting. It's like watching someone else's garden bloom while ours is still a patch of dirt. But here's the truth. God isn't measuring your progress against anyone else's. Just like my father's garden, he didn't compare his garden to the neighbor's. God's work in your life is unique to you. Your timing doesn't have to match anyone else's because your purpose is uniquely yours. So, what does it look like to trust God's timing in real life? It starts with surrender, acknowledging that we don't have all the answers. And that's okay. It means staying faithful in the small things, even when we don't see immediate results. And it means finding peace in the process, knowing that God is working behind the scenes. When my dad's garden finally sprouted, it was a beautiful sight. The waiting wasn't wasted. It was a part of the process. And the same is true for us. The seasons of waiting in our lives are not wasted. They're where God does some of his best work. So let's trust his timing, even when it doesn't align with ours, because when the harvest comes, it'll be worth it. And in the meantime, we can rest in the assurance that God is faithful and that his timing is always perfect. As I close, I only have a question for you. Where are you placing your trust? Life can feel like an endless maze full of wrong turns and detours, but here's the truth. God's guidance is the only constant in the chaos. We've talked about trusting God like you trust a pilot on a plane. You might not know the route or see ahead, but you trust they'll get you to your destination. The same goes for God. He's got the flight plan, the map, and the controls. You're not lost. He's leading. And what about decision making? It's easy to rely on our own understanding, to act like we've got it all figured out. But when we acknowledge God in our choices, we're not just guessing anymore. We're inviting the creator of the universe to guide us. And that's a game changer, isn't it? Then there's the waiting. The waiting. Like my dad's garden, it's hard to watch and wonder if anything's happening beneath the surface. But trust me, growth is happening. God's timing is like the seasons, intentional, necessary, and perfect, even when it feels slow. Here's what I want you to take with you today. You don't have to know every step ahead. You don't have to see the whole path. All you need to do is trust the one who's already prepared the way. Let him lead, let him in, and let him do his thing. Start looking at your journey through God's eyes, through his lenses of love. When you do, you'll see a purpose in the pauses, direction in the detours, and beauty in the unknown. And isn't that the kind of life worth walking? Trust him. He's got you.